Welcome to the Business Blast podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Wagner. This episode is brought to you by Authors Unite. Authors Unite provides you with all the resources you need to become a successful author. You can learn more about Authors Unite and join the free community at authorsunite.com. Now, let's jump into the episode. All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Business Blast podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Wagner, and today I have Laurean Robinson with us. MA is a college literature and composition professor of 10 years, secondary education language arts educator for 5 years, Columbia University and University of Florida graduate, startup founder of Lboogie's Pop World, a popular culture, media, and community news website based in Miami, Florida, media correspondent, creative, and podcast host. So welcome to the show, Laurean.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Pumped to have you here. We'll dive into the first one. The first question I have for you, Laurean, is what is the best story from your life that has an underlying valuable message?
Okay. The one story that was kind of interesting is in high school, I wrote for the school paper called The Beacon and realized I loved writing, et cetera. And the last senior year, the last few months of school, of course, it's senioritis. Everyone's already been accepted to school, so they're kind of not really interested in doing anything. And I took it upon myself, took over the entertainment page of the newspaper. And it's 1999, so I'm a huge Backstreet Boys fan. So I said, and Millennium had just come out, so I totally took over the entertainment page, put my Vibe magazine-worthy, Rolling Stone-worthy review of Millennium on the front of the entertainment page, as well as a review of a intimate concert video that had just come out around that same time. Everybody at the school hated me. But more importantly, the article that I wrote was talking about not just the Millennium, not just talking about how important Millennium was, but also how they have how Backstreet Boys had this long-standing status as being probably the pop band to watch. And certainly enough, 25 years later, they're going to be performing tonight on The Late Late Show with Stephen Colbert. So I feel like that validates not only my gut, trusting my gut, believing in myself, and embracing the inner weird kid in me.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I love it. That is like one of the best stories ever. The next one I have for you is what is the most valuable piece of information we should know that's within your expertise or industry?
I think I would say education, because I had taught on 3 levels of education of middle, high school, and then higher education in college. I have seen kind of like what students really need to have in order to be prepared for each level of education and beyond. A lot of my former students still communicate with me on social media, and which is great, and very great supporters of and often see them at events and everything. So for me, it's important to kind of give the practical information about what you really need to be ready for the school year that's coming up, whether you're going from elementary to middle school, or you're going from middle school to high school, or you're going from high school to college, or even college to real life. Really being about making your education valuable for you, and not just going to school because your parents tell you to go, but to be taking an active interest in your education.
And what's your best piece of overall business advice? So not necessarily industry specific.
I would say definitely stay true to your interest and to your gut. I'm an MTV kid, so I love pop culture, but I've also seen what pop culture can be the junk food or can be the healthy meal, and choosing the kind of music or choosing the kind of art that's out that you personally resonate with is very important, and believing in that's valuable, and not just going with what the trends are saying, because I tell you, 90% of the week, I don't really necessarily listen to live radio. I'm usually listening to albums on my streaming services, albums that I know that I love, new albums of artists that I respect, and getting so much content from that, seeing television shows and movies of artists that I respect, and creating these great projects, because and then being able to write about it. So I think it's definitely important to stay true to who you are and not follow trends.
And if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that be?
I would say keep writing. Keep writing. There's interest in it, and it's a muscle that you have to continue to work regularly, and staying true to your interests and what you find fascinating, what you think would be great to write about. Usually it's something that people really like and are really going to gravitate to.
And in your opinion, what is the key to happiness?
Oh my gosh, this is such a hard question. Oh man. I guess the key to happiness is recognizing that you are not perfect and that you can't have it all, but that you can get a lot of what you need when you allow yourself to have it. So for instance, if you're, you want to have the things that the things that you love, that feeds your soul, that empowers you. And that could be whether it's with the job that you're in, the career path you're interested in, the kind of people that are around you, recognizing what you need to kind of keep you in a strong and confident space and in a positive space, and making sure that environment is, you have that, and creating boundaries for people or places that don't give you that.
And what is the best book that you've read, and what was the number one thing you learned from that?
Okay. Oh, it's like the one book I'm reading too. So I'll just say the one that I'm reading that I really find fascinating. I'm reading Bertopia by Emily Chung. It's about the kind of culture that the founders of the big tech companies of Facebook and Instagram and all those big tech companies, what they had, how they were created, and how the founders kind of background, whether it was their college dropouts, and to kind of decide who associates themselves with them, and how they were able to ascend to their level of where they are now. And more importantly, finding ways to go within that system and saying, okay, well, there's something that they're lacking in this. How are women of color and minority entrepreneurs in tech able to find a channel to get into the industry without having to give up something in the process. And for me, reading about, hearing, I have it on the audiobook and I have them reading it. It really is an eye opener for a lot of things, as far as what you're seeing in the news, as far as the kind of revelations that, certain founders have been saying, but also it reaffirms this idea that, the importance of women being in the room in these industries, because when women are in the room, I tell you, 90% of the terrible things that you're hearing about in the news would never happen to those tech industries. So all that stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, sure. No. And what is your favorite quote and why?
My favorite quote comes from Oscar Wilde that I have had since college. Be yourself. Everybody else is already taken.
I love that.
Yeah.
One of my favorite quotes. I actually, growing up, my mom had that quote hanging up in our house, actually. So I saw that pretty often.
Yeah, and for him, I'm a huge fan of Oscar Wilde and all that he had been able to accomplish, and being able to kind of hold a mirror up to society, to the snooty, rich society of England and Europe, and saying like, okay, you guys think you're so special, but really you are shallow and pathetic, but you're laughing at it, so it's hilarious, but really I'm making fun of you. And everybody else knows it but you.
Yes. Listen, thank you so much for coming on. The last question I have for you before we let you go is, where is the best place for people to find and or connect with you online?
Oh gosh, there's too many places. Okay, social media. I am on Instagram, Lboogie Pop World 81, on Tumblr, Lboogie Pop World, on Pinterest, Lboogie Pop World, on Instagram. I said Instagram already. On Snapchat, Lboogie Pop World, no 81, just regular Lboogie Pop World. And Facebook, I have a Facebook page for Lboogie's Pop World, an actual Facebook page. And Twitter, of course, Lboogie Pop World. So keeping it consistent throughout. And I have also, and again, on those platforms, I have the website for my podcast, and I'm actually working on the website right now. So again, I have new episodes that are on my podcast, and if you guys definitely want to hear the events that I've covered, check that out, and look forward to hearing from you. And please don't be shy. Say hello. I'm super friendly and promise I won't bite online too hard.
Amazing. Thank you again for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. You have a great day.
The podcast you just heard was published with Anchor. Got something you want to say to the creator of this show? Send them a voice message using the Anchor app, free for iOS and Android.